welcome to the Massman YouTube channel. Today we are going to continue with Stack Overflow question answers series explanation series. Today's question is regarding a REST service. So let's quickly check that what is the difference between Spring REST service, Jersey REST service and Spring plus Jersey solutions. Okay, let me tell you that the Spring is a framework which is generally used to design Java web-based application, which also includes a REST service as well. And Jersey is a framework which is specifically used for implementing a REST service architecture. So, questioner want to ask that is there any possibility and the solution something like Spring plus Jersey solution, how they work together. Okay, so let's go into the depth of the question. I want to build a RESTful service or API. I use some framework like Play to build it, but I want to try other more efficient ways. I heard that Jersey is a common library for building a REST API and the Spring is also a good framework, but I also saw some solution like Spring plus Jersey. Thus, I'm a little confused about those REST API solutions. Can anyone tell me what is the difference among those REST, Jersey, Spring REST, and Spring plus Jersey REST? My goal is building a couple of REST APIs that take JSON as an input or output. I have a jar file as their backend process logic to process the input a JSON or object and return a JSON object. Okay, so the questioner want to ask that what is the difference between the framework on which a REST API can be built? One is Jersey, one is Spring, and one application he found that using a both Spring plus Jersey framework to build the application REST service. Uh, Along with that, he added that JSON objects is an input to his web API or web service, and it's also output of his APIs and input as well. So by also REST is a very good option while you oh, if you want to deal with the REST, then JSON is the best data to transfer of the network, and it's vice versa. Okay, fine. So let's check with the answer. There are two answers given here. Oh, sorry, three answers. So let's check with the highest voted, which is 34 or 43 vote on this question. So Jersey is a JAX-RS API example implementation provided by Sun, while Spring REST is of course Spring's implementation of the same API and jars. So there are several JAX-RS APIs and Jersey is an example of implementation. Example implementation. So what Jersey implemented is nothing but the JAX-RS APIs, and what Spring implement is same JAX-RS APIs, but the Jersey is implemented by provided by Sun and Spring having its own implementation. The major difference is that Spring REST easily integrate into other Spring APIs if you wish, such as Spring Data REST. Okay, so the major difference between the Spring and Spring REST easily integrate into the other Spring. So obviously, other API can be easily communicate with the another API of the Springs. There are few not noteworthy difference between them. You can embed Jersey resource known as Spring as a controllers within each other to enable a separate class that is responsible for subpath of certain path, while it doesn't appear to be available in Spring right now. So, to enable a separate class that is responsible for the set path of the certain path while it does not. So, in the URL, the path-based separation of the class is not allowed in Spring while it is provided by the Jersey. Also, in my opinion, Jersey gives a better out-of-the-box error response, such as why it cannot map a JSON payload to the Java bean using JAX, while Spring is a bit more configurable but plainer without some additional work. So, Jersey is good uh, up till now as we consider 2 points. One is regarding the class separation with the URL, and one is regarding the error message or error code in the response. In the end, the difference is choosing between them usually comes down to, are you already or do you plan to integrate any other Spring libraries into your application? If so, Spring REST is the way to go, as you will have a much easier time integrating it. Otherwise, it is really a just personal preference which you will prefer to use. Personally, I like Jersey. Yeah, I also like a Jersey. But the power of other related Spring objects such as Spring headers, which I highly recommend, make Spring better choice. I don't think there will be a real determining factor in your case, as your goal target is a simple API with JSON input output. I'll recommend to follow a Spring REST guide. Okay, also Spring+Jersey REST usually refer to using a Jersey for the RESTful endpoints with the Spring for the rest of the application. When you wish to use Jersey annotation or implementation, but other Spring frameworks such as dependency injection. Okay, fine. I think it is little bit clear now what is difference between Jersey and Spring. One more, one major difference, one major difference in is in the area of unit testing support. Jersey test framework does not lead itself for mocking server-side code. For example, if your race resource depend on the service, you would like to mock the service when testing resource method. However, Jersey tests run a separate container and unit tests sort of make calls to the running instance of the REST resource. At this point of time, I have not found any documentation or way of mocking server-side code. On the counter, Spring MVC tests do not require any containers and are more well integrated with its controller. Dependency injection can be used to inject mock service nodes to have better unit test. I also find that documentation on the Spring project are more mature when compared to Jersey. Have a look answer here. How to mock service. One subtle difference is that the instantiation of the resource Jersey or the controller Spring objects. So Jersey is more specific to the resources, and Spring is most concerned with the control objects. Jersey new resource object for each request, whereas by default Spring treat controller as a bean with default scope of singleton. This can be overridden a scope annotation, although if you do that it will get flagged by Sona. The default pair of Spring has beaten our application several times. With the controller class being a singleton, all class members are effectively static. So value set handling one request will still be better for the next. This is something to be aware of if you are using Spring. My suggestion is to add scope the controller class as a prototype, even though that will earn you a warning if you that this sometime is aware if you're using a Spring class prototype. This, so wave set handling requests. This sometime be aware the Spring messaging and the controller. Okay, fine. So I think we are pretty much clear that there is a difference between the REST and Jersey and the Spring is that objects are treated as a controller in the Spring. So the difference between the Jersey and the Spring is that the objects are considered as the resources in Jersey and the objects are considered as controller in the Spring. Okay, so thanks for watching this video. Have a good day. Bye bye.